There's honestly not a week that goes by, if not a day that goes by, where I talk to somebody who is very intent on saving their marriage. They're in extreme distress and they're feeling very urgent about it and scared because it's the most important thing to them, but they fear that it's too late. And a lot of the times when I talk to people, they feel blindsided. But when I probe a little bit, most have actually been on the brink for a lot longer than they realized, but they just haven't reached out until it's past the breaking point or at the point of crisis where we could be near the breaking point. And so everything is just a little bit harder then. And it can be very devastating to the people that I'm talking to when they recognize, like, now I'm ready to do the work, but my spouse might already be all the way out. It's frustrating for me too, if I'm really honest. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this today. And I want to share with you guys the top 5 signs that you should be aware of that tell you that you're in the danger zone heading to the point of no return in your relationship. There's a couple things also that might be blocking you from either recognizing those things or acting on them. And then also 6 tangible things that you can do right now if you do recognize these signs in your marriage. The first thing you're going to notice is that your spouse has been complaining for years that they feel emotionally disconnected from you. So it's not the first time that they've said this to you. They have hurts that keep coming back up and you are kind of waiting for them to get over it. Or maybe in your past, they brought it up, it blows over, you go back to normal. And so in your mind, you're expecting that that will happen again. But if this has been going on for a long time, this puts you in danger zone and you really do have to pay attention, even if up until now, you've been able to go back to normal in between those moments of conflict. This also includes if you've been having the same pattern. If you have like a fighting pattern or dysfunctional pattern that you recognize and there hasn't been any real changes, and the only difference is now your spouse is not fighting you. Now they're not trying to talk to you about it. They're not making bids for connection. They're not sharing their feelings. They're not protesting the disconnection. You're just living parallel lives because they're shut down and they're checked out. Maybe they've made peace with the lack of connection, and honestly, sometimes that can be misread as a good sign. You might misread that and think, oh, things are going really well. They're not complaining. We're not fighting. Everything seems really peaceful, so things must be going really well. This is a common pitfall that I hear a lot. Like, yeah, we used to fight about this all the time, but in the last year, everything seemed fine, and that's because they were completely shut down because the previous attempts never really worked, but they weren't telling you that they were at that point. So it's important to be aware that that is actually a warning sign. Now, also, an ongoing lack of accountability is a huge red flag in the relationship and a sign that you're headed to the point of no return. So what that means is, like, if one of you or both of you are not taking accountability, you're consistently refusing to own your part in the conflict, that means apologies are rare, repair is missing, blame is chronic, there's a lot of defensiveness. Like, if that's your go-to and your spouse has been bringing things up to you and you immediately want to reframe that for them and invalidate them because you feel like they got it wrong about you, and so you're so concerned about protecting yourself that they're never really feeling heard, that's also a warning sign. It's this idea that, you know what, my spouse just doesn't get it. They don't understand. I keep bringing it up, but I don't feel like it ever really lands. They're not really hearing the impact that they're having on me because they're too busy explaining or defending. And so eventually you can get to the point where it's like, what's the point of even trying? Also, a huge thing that I see is there's an erosion of positive regard in the relationship. So what this means is you or your partner no longer sees the other in a positive light. And it's almost hard to remember, like, why did we even like each other in the first place? I can say a lot of bad things about them and they can say a lot of bad things about me, and that's top of mind. And I have to actually dig to kind of remember, why did I like this person in the first place? You might feel like your spouse doesn't respect you anymore. You might feel like their resentment that's accumulated has blocked their love toward you, and they're rewriting history a little bit. When they talk about the past, they only remember the negative. That's definitely a bad sign. And they're no longer seeking affection, or they're overtly rejecting your bids for affection. You don't get the feeling that they see you in the light that they used to. It's almost like the opposite of rose-colored glasses. It's this filter of you that feels a little bit distorted to the negative. And sometimes we miss that as a warning sign because we're so busy trying to, like, prove them wrong and give them a different narrative and make them remember, no, it's not always like that. It's what about this and what about that and what about this? And so trying to correct that narrative is actually the wrong thing to do in that situation. And you don't realize, like, what this requires is a willingness to 100% own your part in how they see you now, right? Even if you think they've got it wrong, even if you think it's distorted. And we'll get into the things that we can do in just a second. But being aware of the fact that, like, the love is gone, that's obviously a huge sign that you're in danger zone. The fourth thing, and the biggest predictor according to the research, is if you're in a 50-50 ratio, like 1-to-1 of positive to negative interactions in your relationship. And this is kind of hard to notice too, because a lot of couples, they can go a really long time with that ratio. They say half the time it's really good, and when it's good, it's amazing, and when it's bad, it's really bad. But because it's so good when it's good, and it's like that 50% of the time, it keeps your hope alive. And so people can go a long time with that, but that's actually, from the research, that's a huge indicator that you're not going to make it. You're statistically very likely to approach divorce if you're only doing well 50% of the time. And how you can look at this is like, how can I assess the ratio of positive negative? Negatives are things like criticism, like attacking character instead of identifying a specific behavior or complaint about that. A lot of defensiveness, like I've already touched on, stonewalling, which is emotional withdrawal and silent treatment, contempt, which is a huge predictor of divorce, pervasive lack of empathy, harsh startups and emotional shutdowns. Like if you always are bringing up your conversations with a lot of hostility and blame, over time, that's going to close the door to true connection. And then the last thing I want to mention is, and this is the thing that I personally see the most that tells me that we're approaching the point of no return in marriage, is that you're waiting for change instead of creating it. One of the most destructive patterns is waiting for the right time, like in quotes, I'm waiting for the right time to work on things, waiting until the promotion, waiting until this work project ends, waiting until I finish all the projects I'm working on around the house, waiting until summer vacation, waiting until the kids graduate. We just don't have time right now. This is a trap and it's a slippery slope, and you always think you have more time until all of a sudden you don't. Also, another way that we can wait and externalize our locus of control outside of us is waiting for our partner to change first. An example of this would be waiting for them to agree to couples counseling, waiting for them to say, okay, I'm still in, I'm going to do this work with you, waiting for them to read the book with you, waiting for them to watch the video that you sent them, waiting for them to say something to you, to give you a sign, like something that you need, some action from them that is the green light for you to do the work on yourself. When you do that, you're basically deciding not to change anything, and you're potentially putting the power into the person with the limitations or the doubts into their hands, which is not a smart move. If what you want is to heal the marriage and to grow the marriage and to make it better than ever, you don't want to leave that up to the doubting spouse. That's not smart. So keep these things in mind. The question now is, okay, let's say you recognize these and you're like, yep, that's me. What do we do now? There are 6 powerful shifts that can prevent or even pull you back from the edge of the breaking point in marriage. Number 1 is you have to take the stance of radical responsibility. That means owning 100% of your part. Now, here's the trick. You might feel like you only own 10%, but 100% of your attention and 100% of your mental energy and 100% of your focus should be on that part. So if you're still trying to get them to see what their part is while you're owning your part, you're siphoning off your energy. I mean, all of your energy is spent on your part, no matter what percentage it is. It's just radical accountability. Now, this doesn't mean that you're at fault for everything. It doesn't mean that you're taking ownership over their part. People get this wrong a lot. They feel like, well, if I'm doing the work and focusing on my part, what about them? Again, you're going back to like being outwardly focused and you're just siphoning off your power. So check in with yourself, right? Am I taking radical accountability? And that really means asking yourself the question, what part did I play? What many parts did I play in the experience that I'm having right now? That's what that means. What part did I play? And what can I do about it now? How can I turn this difficulty into a win? How could this be happening for me and not to me? Because oftentimes a crisis can be the opportunity to shift and pivot. And even though it's hard, to move into a stance that you wouldn't have moved into had you not been in crisis. So look for ways to reframe it as a positive. The second thing you have to do is prioritize vulnerability over defensiveness, prioritize vulnerability over your comfort zone, or protecting your reputation, whatever it is and however that shows up for you. Because connection starts where pride ends. And this is a really, really difficult thing for so many people, especially if you've been raised in a way that makes you feel ashamed of your vulnerability. If you were emotionally neglected, you might just feel so uncomfortable or hate yourself for how you feel that you would never in a million years pull back the curtain and let somebody see that vulnerability. So you really have to be brave enough to be real, even when it's scary. What is really real about how I feel? Owning that to yourself and then being willing to share that with your partner. You have to learn how to do it even if it's hard. You do not want to accept the limitations that you feel. You do not want to let fear stop you, right? So to do this, you really have to connect to your vision. And I talk about this a lot. When you remember what it's for, it helps you get past the hump of fear. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable, just like jumping off a diving board and trying to do a flip for the first time. But at a certain point, you're taking a leap of faith because you trust that the payoff is going to be worth it. And it always is, honestly, no matter the outcome, the personal growth that you go through is always a blessing. It's always something that no one can take away from you and adds to the quality of your life, no matter the outcome. And if you're not looking for the information that you need, if you're not looking for support to change your default modes, if you're not taking that accountability and doing that inner work, you are choosing to stay stuck. So, and I'm not judging. Like, if you choose that, you choose that. But just own that then. I'm not willing. It feels like too much of a risk for me, and I'm not willing to do it. But if you own it, at least you don't feel disempowered. You don't feel like it's happening to you. You don't feel like you're in the one down position. The third thing is you really ought to commit to changes before you get to the crisis. So I'm speaking to those of you who aren't in crisis yet, but you are seeking like information about how to improve your marriage because you can tell things are a little bit rocky. Don't wait until your spouse is emotionally gone to start doing the work. Don't wait until you're in danger zone. If you grew up in a chaotic environment, or if you grew up in an environment where people had to yell to be heard, you might be conditioned to wait until it's like code red before you pay attention. And that's letting your default mode win. And it's not smart, and it's not proactive, and it's not being guided by your vision. It's never going to feel convenient. You're never going to feel totally ready. You just have to choose discomfort over disaster. You only learn by doing, and the wisdom comes from doing. So do not wait to feel ready. Do not wait for it to feel convenient, and be willing to be uncomfortable to commit to those changes before you get to crisis point. The fourth thing is you want to increase appreciation. Now, this goes back to the ratio of positive to negative. If you're in that 50-50 ratio of good to bad, we fight half the time and we're in connection half the time. Aim for a 5-to-1, of course, at least ratio of positive to negative through looking for increasing your appreciation of the other person. How can I express fondness and admiration? How can I express appreciation? How can I notice something that they did that I appreciated today and communicate that? Just doing that every single day can shift the entire atmosphere in your relationship, the energy between you. It can melt their walls of resentment. It can restore your nervous system. Just give you a little distance between the last time things felt tenuous or you weren't in harmony. You need more distance. So the longer you can go from that last point of disconnection until the next point of disconnection, that's what your goal is to expand that duration, and looking to increase appreciation in your relationship is the easiest way to do that. Now, if you want to go back to my video where I talk about the proven principle, which is the 5-to-1 ratio, I go into this in way more detail, so I'm not going to do it here, but I do have another video on YouTube that is called 99.99% of marriages won't last without this. That is going to tell you a little bit more, what you can do to expand that ratio. But for the purposes of this talk today, focus on appreciation because you're going to get the most bang for your buck with that one. The fifth thing you have to do is get some kind of help, whether that's therapy, whether that's coaching, whether that's finding a support group, whether that's finding family members that you feel safe with who have gone through similar things, or even friends who have walked through something similar. You really have to think carefully about who's a safe person that I can talk to about what's really going on, because we're not really designed to be a closed loop inside of our own brain. It is too difficult to observe ourselves having the experience, observe ourselves in our default modes, observe our reactions while also still being in the middle of the experience, whether that's healing or whether that's reacting. It's hard to play both roles at the same time in the beginning. So you got to find somebody that's going to hold space for you in some way. I think this is true for any time we're trying to change our default mode, whether we're trying to learn any new skills in life, whether we're trying to commit to a new lifestyle of health and wellness, whether we are trying to learn something in our career or get a certification or go back to school, right? We have to have accountability. We have to have structure. We have to have somebody that's telling us, like, this is what we need to do. Here are the pitfalls. Focus on this. Don't focus on this, and hold space for you to do that. Because if you don't have somebody that's like in the trenches with you that can witness you and that can coach you or give you a heads up if you're kind of getting near the cliff, then you're just taking too many chances of failing on your own. And then you would be on you. And I've seen this too, where people are kicking themselves because it's like, why didn't I get help sooner? Now it's too late. And I thought I could do it myself. And we're really not designed to do these kinds of things by ourselves. It's just not how our human brains are wired. But I think we have such an individualistic way of looking at the world that we don't recognize that interdependence is actually an evolution from independence. if you stay stuck in like this false idea of individualism where we don't have to need each other at all and I can do this myself, I can do this myself, that's actually not healthy. And you can do it, but you just are going to be limited on how far you can actually go. So if you're somebody who's always said, I don't want to get help, I'm uncomfortable talking to people, whether it's friends, family, coach, whoever it is, I would just really do some self-reflection around that and ask yourself, am I willing to let that go? Maybe that's how it used to be, but I'm in a different time now and maybe I need to let that go because it's not serving me anymore. And then the final thing, and I've been touching on this along the way, that is to commit to the inner work no matter what your partner is doing. So this, I mean, honestly, most of what destroys relationships didn't start in the relationship. Most of what destroys relationships is something that each person brought to the relationship before they even knew each other. And you actually chose each other because you would activate each other in the ways that you do. And so you have to be willing to look at what is yours alone. Now, I touched on this already when I talked about accountability and owning the part that is only yours. But it's not just the insight of recognizing this is my part, I see that now. It's about being willing to engage in systematic transformational work, changing those limiting beliefs at the subconscious level, doing some self-healing modalities, whether that's meditation, whether that's self-hypnosis, whether that's reading books, whether that is researching, whether that is spending time practicing things that you are researching in a book or audiobooks, whatever it is for you. It can't be something that you compartmentalize once a week for 50 minutes and then hope that it will naturally integrate into your life. It's just not what's going to happen if you're in crisis. Instead, you want to look at how can I build this into my daily practice. One thing I can recommend is if you have a vision of where you want to go and who you need to be to create that, look at that every single morning, clear out any energies or beliefs that are getting in the way of that, have some structured actions. It's an intelligent plan of action, right? Every day, this is how I'm going to show up. These are the things I'm going to do. These are the things I'm not going to do, not only relationally with your partner, but also internally. I mean, I just cannot overstate how powerful that is. Like, you could not ever even talk to them about the changes that you're making, and they're still going to feel it. And that's where you're going to have the most leverage. So if there's one thing that I want you guys to take away today is really just that you have to know that it's not about love. It's not about a lack of love. It's not about a lack of trying. All it is mistimed readiness. If the timing isn't right, you've missed that window and it's broken. Sometimes you just simply cannot put it back together, or one person just isn't willing to take that chance. So if you love your partner, if you believe in what you have, if you believe in the potential of what you have, do the work now. Regret always comes too late. I'm hoping that this is going to reach people that aren't already at that point. But even if you think you are at that point of no return, sometimes it's still worth doing the work, because I've also seen many spouses who think they're at the point of no return and then they change their mind. They really just didn't think that they could access the love. They didn't think they could access the feelings. But then once they really feel the different lived experience in the energy of the work that their spouse has done, they can start to let go of their walls a little bit. They can start to lean into that connection a little bit and start to second guess their decision. So you just never know, but you have to be willing to do the work with or without that assurance. And you have to find that it's worth it to you, even if you don't have any guarantees. And if you can do that, you will not ever regret it, and you'll be better for it no matter what the outcome is. That's it for today. If you like my content, please take a second and either like this video or subscribe to my channel, or both. That will help us reach the people that really need to hear this stuff.